Welcome everybody and to our Ready Set Summer Refresh event, where we're going to provide you some fun, fresh PD opportunities highlighting how Lumio and in our session, how Smartboard with IQ can provide a fluid workflow where you as a teacher and your students can benefit. We'll show you how to create some exciting ideas and focus on those classroom instructional best practices. My name's Jennifer Underwood. I'm one of the customer success managers with Smart from Florida. And this webinar is Tour of IQ Island Destination Smart Board featuring Matt Van Gastel, another customer success manager from Canada. Together with the help of our fellow colleagues in the chat, Asha and Anshu, we're going to take you through this session. We encourage your participation, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask those in the chat box during the presentation, and we'll either integrate them into the flow or hold them to be answered at the end during our Q&A period. We will be sharing resources from today's webinar in the chat at the end. And also for participating today, you'll have the opportunity to receive a certificate after you complete a brief feedback survey. So at this point, without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Matt so that we can dive into today's webinar, Tour IQ Island Destination Smartboard.
Welcome to the island. I am excited, folks. Definitely excited to be here with you today. I'm gonna be honest. I haven't done one of these in a while. This is my first one in well over a year, I think. So definitely excited to be here with you guys today to talk about IQ, visit the island, and we've got a bunch of different things that we're going to cover today. Very exciting stuff. We're going to talk about signing into your smart board, the importance of connecting up, syncing to that board, and what features and benefits it's going to allow. We're going to talk about personalization, changing the wallpaper, turning on finger inking, a couple other things. Neat little features that you'll find here on the smartboard. Dive into the browser app. What do you find on the browser app? We'll look at how you can utilize that in the classroom during a lesson live and what benefits it gives. And finally, we're going to dig into the Whiteboard app. And it's really a lot more than just a Whiteboard app. But without giving too much away, we will explore some of the tools and functionality, things like backgrounds, pens, widgets, and ready-made resource pages. And that's where things really get exciting. So the first thing that I want to do is we're going to show you a quick little image here. And this really kind of highlights some of the things that we're going to start talking about. I want to go over to the home page here in just a minute, but ideally we're going to cover these topics. We're going to look at files. We're going to look at signing in. We're going to look at the whiteboard. We're going to look at the browser. I think Jennifer's going to talk about why she likes the favorites button so much.
I do.
So let's take a look here. So I've got my account. I'm already signed in here. Here on the side of the board, up in the top left corner. Whoops. We'll have the little sign in. Now I'm already signed in. Normally, what you would do, you would hit this, you would sign in. This would give you access to different things on the board. Now, if I'm not signed in, of course, this board is still completely usable. You don't have to have an account. You can walk up, you can start using it. You can use it as a whiteboard. You can do all sorts of interesting stuff. However, any work that you do on the board is just going to be saved as a normal board file. I'm going to show you that next. So here we are in the files library. I've signed in, so I have access to not only the board files, but I have access to my files as well. So you can see here on that dropdown, there's the board files, there's the downloads. If we're working in the browser, if we're downloading files, this is where they're going to be saved. Now, when I talk about Lumio, for example, this is where all of my Lumio files are going to be saved, but I'm not going to actually get into that today. If you're not already signed up, tomorrow there's the Barbie IQ Lumio Fire Up IQ instruction session. So if you haven't registered for that, I really suggest you register for that now because there's going to be a full deep dive into all the neat stuff that you can do with Lumio, but we're not going to talk about that today. So getting back to that home screen, I want to explore a few different things that you have here. Now, this is your home. This is where all of the important things live initially. You've got things like settings down there in the corner. We're going to take a look at that in just a minute. But you've also got things like your recent files. So you can see the very top left corner there. There's that presentation that we were just seeing. And that's the last thing that I was working on. Before that, we had that summer refresh video. and before that, that video again, and on and on. So it's going to give a list of the things that you've just most recently seen. But what about favorites, Jennifer? How does that work?
Favorites are my favorite. Favorites can go on forever, right? So like
Again,
recents, they're the last 8 things that you were just recently at, but your favorites, you can put your favorite websites, the most those resources and tools, maybe a lesson that you use all the time. You can add that to the favorites. Can you show us how, Matt? How to add
absolutely.
those favorites?
So as you can see in the corner of each of the different icons there, you've got that little star. And simply by pressing it or depressing it, unpressing it,
There you
you can
go.
add it to the favorites back and forth. And right now you can see I've got stuff in there. I've got Whiteboard, I've got Browser, I've got the Zoom app that we're using here on the board. And you can get Zoom directly on the board. Very, very handy. You've got the Wikipedia that I've favorited. I've got some YouTube in there. So it just allows that quick access to pull things up. And well, let's take a look at that right now. So, tropics. Let's say we wanted to do a lesson on the tropics. Let's say we wanted to talk to the class about the Tropic of Capricorn, the Tropic of Cancer. We wanted to explore that out a little bit. So I'm going to pull open this Wikipedia page, and just like any normal browser page, I can sit there, I can scroll through it, I can read it out to the class. But what gets interesting is when I pick up this pen and I start doing things on the board. So I saw a map here. I'm going to pull up that map. So I wanted to talk about the specifics of, say, what countries are in South America in the Tropic of Capricorn. So I can begin inking on this board and I can explore different ways to highlight things. I can pull open the highlighter itself. I can do all sorts of cool stuff. Actually, I guess the highlighter, sorry, that's when we bring this back in ink, but I can change my thickness, I can change my color. Now, the interesting thing and that I really like about this has become a snapshot. This is no longer just the web page. If I go to move up and down, it's not going to do that. Nothing's going to happen. This is snapshotted. But what this does allow me to do is I can take this screen and I can save this as an image directly into the whiteboard. So I've done that now. It's now unfrozen the page. I can now move up and down the page again. Well, this is just going to refresh it, but again, it allows me to go right back to that web page. So just a note, if you're using this feature and you're running a video, this won't pause the video. The video will still play in the background, but it will do that snapshot on screen. Now, I think what's really powerful about this is once I've gotten this image, I can take and actually work with it in that whiteboard space. And that's where I want to move to now because we've got a couple little activities in there, a couple interesting things that I really wanted to show you, explore out in this space. Now, Jennifer, I think before we get into that, I wanted to talk about finger inking, and that's a setting that we need to enable, isn't it?
It sure is. And I love how after you left the browser, you went to your home screen, right? And it put that in the recents like you just talked about.
Yeah,
So
just like that.
let's show you where finger inking is, which gives you multiple opportunities to add some color from your ink, depending upon the type of board you have. So just like Matt did, he pressed and tapped on the settings bubble that was in the bottom left of the screen. And if you go to Smart Whiteboard, there on the left, you can see under other on the right hand side that you can enable finger inking. So it's just a quick toggle on and off, and it's not a default. So it's something you have to go onto your board and turn on. And then it gives you another opportunity to have another way to add your finger as a pen while you're inking.
Absolutely. Neat little feature. We'll show
Right?
you why that's fun here in just a minute. But since we're on this screen, I just wanted to take a moment to show a couple of the features that you may find important, especially in personalizing your board. Ideally, under this personalization tab, this is where we have the wallpapers. So you can see there's a whole selection of pre-selected wallpapers, but you can also add in additional images from a USB drive. And conveniently, you've got the ports right here on the front of the smartboard that allows you to do that. Beyond that, there's some information you can find here on notifications, for example. What do you want to get notifications from? Perhaps you want to turn them off. Right now, I've got everything turned off, and that's how it is by default. So if you're wondering why you're not seeing things, it could be that. You've got audio settings, you've got display settings, and one of the things that I find important here is you can see because I'm sharing my screen using the camera, and if you end up doing this, turn the brightness right down, and then it's going to show up better overall. So again, this is just the settings. You'll find some stuff in there. And for the most part, your IT admin or just overall tech administrator would be the person coming in here and doing a lot of these changes. But just be aware that's where you can find things. Now, jumping back in, of course, to the lesson, as it were, we've got that capture of that map over here into the whiteboard. Great. Now I can start doing a few more things with it. I've got access to more of the tools, for example. You can see on the side here, when I open it up, I've got several different things involved. Now, what I like about this is that finger inking that we were just talking about. So right now, I've got the pen set to this thick black ink. So if I go and I change that over to, say, a green ink, okay, that's nice thin green ink. Well, let's say I want to have two colors, but I don't have two colored pens, for example. I'm going to turn on finger inking and I'm going to set that to red. Now, when I'm doing that, I'm using my finger the entire time because the board is able to differentiate. Is it using the pen? Am I using my finger? So now when I start inking with my finger, I'm using red, but when I go back to the pen, I'm using green. So I've effectively got green and red at my fingertips.
Good one.
So bad jokes here.
And kids
Okay.
love it too, right? Once you
Oh, of
set that up
course.
and having students who
Yeah.
might not yet have all that fine motor coordination to be able to use the pens, the little guys, they can use finger inking and you can turn that on and off just as simply as Matt showed you.
Yep, absolutely. So let's start up a new page here. I'm just going to do a whiteboard. I want to show another tool. And this one, in my opinion, is a really fantastic feature to the board, especially for somebody like myself who maybe not has the nicest writing. So I've enabled this special tool that's going to allow the board to recognize and change my handwritten text to a proper board font. Oops. Let's erase that. So we'll change this back. We'll go to the black and we'll write out travel destinations. And we're going to begin making a lesson on the fly here. So there we go. We're going to talk about travel destinations. Give it a second. Isn't that fantastic? It took my not so great handwriting and it moved it over so it's looking just beautiful. Now, this is where things get interesting. This is where things get exciting. I'm in the whiteboard. I'm teaching in front of the classroom, but my students are bored. They're not doing anything. I want to get them involved. That's where things get really fun. So I'm going to give everybody a minute here. I'm going to have you join this classroom. Go to hellosmart.com, and I want you to add in that sorry, that number
That's
there,
good.
my class code. There we go.
Yeah.
And we'll
And
have
while
everybody
they're
join in.
joining, Matt, while
Yep,
they're joining, can you just kind of point again on the board where you access that so they could see from that like little roster of people or that class management
absolutely.
icon?
It's up in the corner there. You've
There
got
you
that little
go.
people icon. I think it's kind of get the plant in the way. I try to scan to you as
No,
you're
it's
walking forward.
perfect. It's perfect because we can see the screen. It's our big screen on our devices. It
Fair
looks
enough.
awesome.
So I can see some people are starting to join in here, and we'll let that keep going. But what I also wanted to show, and this is the interesting part. So I've been teaching my class, my students aren't quite engaged. So I say, everybody, let's move into a session online. And I'm going to turn this into a whole class whiteboard. So we've now given the ability for everybody that's joined to participate in this class.
Don't
And
forget to hit
sorry,
start
there we
session
go.
at the top.
Oh,
There you
that's
go.
right. There we
I
go.
think you
Thank
got
you
it.
very much.
Yep.
Rock and roll. Now, I'd like everybody to take and start adding in some different travel destinations, places that you'd like to go, places that you've been, places that now we've gotten out of this pandemic thing, you're going to be heading towards. So write them down. You can use text. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. So seeing a bunch of
Oh,
stuff coming in. This is too cool. I love seeing this in action. Big Europe right in the middle. I agree with that one. Italy, Italy would be fantastic. You know, honestly, on my list of all places to go, number one is Italy. So, what about you, Jennifer?
well, recently this summer we just went to England and we went to the Czech Republic and went to Prague. But I think I would definitely find a tropical destination to go to next, like
Tropical,
somewhere out in the
absolutely.
Pacific Ocean. maybe Hawaii, Maldives I see are on here. There are some great places to go. I have to use my
Australia.
hat, right? And my boat. I have my yacht here behind me as we tour IQ Island. Oh,
Somebody's going to
Australia.
Canada tomorrow. Nice. Are you coming for the Calgary Stampede? That's where I am right now.
Eh,
Lovely Calgary, Alberta, home of the Stampede.
oh,
Ah,
I see Disney World.
yeah, this is too cool. Oh, somebody erased my travel destination.
So that's a cool thing that you point that out
Yep,
though, because as a teacher, right, we could have locked it if we wanted to, but we
yep,
also know in this whole class whiteboard that everybody has access to be able to contribute and add and throw in all kinds of great ideas. It's kind of like that huge graffiti board, right? Because we have 66 people on your class in your class on their devices adding a variety of information. So it's really cool that everybody can contribute to the board that you're working on from not only the classroom, obviously, but also anywhere remotely once they have your class code.
absolutely. Let's try something a little different here. I'm going to add a new activity in. So
All
let's
right.
go to,
I was going to say, since you're in teacher pacing, we're going to drag everybody with us.
yeah, come on, folks. So we're going to look at the graphic organizers next year. So I've just added in this web here, and what I want to do is I'm going to, well, let's pull an image in. And I think we'll look for something. I saw Paris in there a couple of times.
Nice. So
So
this
let's
graphic organizer is that ready-made resource that you added.
keep
Oh, I
bumping into my
love it.
camera here. Beautiful. So let's pull in a picture of the Eiffel Tower here. And I want to start talking about things that are recognizable about the Eiffel Tower. What makes it so iconic? What do we know about the Eiffel Tower for? And we'll just start writing those in. Maybe we can get people putting some stuff into the chat. Ooh, some good questions in there in chat. I just opened up the window.
I know there's some good
So,
stuff. Yep,
and how do
I'll
you
share
like
it.
to use the different graphic organizers, Jennifer?
For stuff that you're doing, right? Like a big and a way to activate prior knowledge. Think about maybe we're going to study a new concept, or maybe we're even reviewing a concept and we want to just like kind of get all the juices flowing of what we know currently about that concept or that idea so that we can take that and move them forward. So this brainstorming or this mind map is a great way to add that visual for students to be able to interact with content. And I love the ability to be able to add an image, right? Because it's not always just about the text. It's always about what else can we see or, glean from those concepts and how can we visually represent them. And as this page was shared with students, they could also add text and
Yeah,
images
absolutely.
right from those tools.
Yeah. So, oh, this is shared, is it not?
Well, click whole class whiteboard
Oh,
to convert the page.
there we go.
There
That's
you
what I was
go.
doing wrong.
Yep. It was shared so they could see it. And that's a great
Yeah,
point. So it was a view only on their side. And then once you convert the page into the whole class whiteboard, then they have all those same tools that you have in the whiteboard, they have now on their device.
perfect, perfect. So there we go, and we can see people are starting to populate that up. So I guess it's really depending on how you want to control the flow. Do you want to get suggestions, have people interact with you? Do you want to allow them to interact directly with the board itself? And you can see as soon as we open that up, we get all sorts of stuff coming in. Just fantastic to get that level of collaboration at the front of the
Yep.
classroom from everybody in the room.
So Matt, if you click on the object of the picture that you added, just tap it once with your finger. See, now you get that pull down menu. And so, right, your travel destination text before got deleted because everybody can contribute. But here you also have some additional tools as the teacher to be able to kind of guide and sort of maintain how you want the flow of information. So you can lock it, you can, move it obviously if you prior to locking it, you could infinitely clone it. That was another thing. So if
That's
this
always a
was,
neat one.
yeah, if that was like a manipulative or something that you want students to have a bunch of, you could infinitely clone any of the images that you add
All
and
right.
watch those concepts develop.
Let's move on. So, before you touched on, sorry, do a new whiteboard page. Before you had touched on adding images and whatnot. Of course, there's more than just images that you can add. There's videos as well. So let's say we wanted to watch a video about the Eiffel Tower. Assuming I spelled this correctly, put myself on the spot. So and what that's going to do is that's going to pull up a bunch of videos without ads. And I think that's the beautiful thing. So I can just click on this. That's going to pull this video over. Now, just for the sake of everybody's bandwidth, I'm not actually going to go ahead and play the video. But if you did hit that button, that's going to open up the video on YouTube, again, ad free, and allow you to do that directly from the board during your flow. You don't have to stop, go to the app, go to the browser. You're directly in there. Everybody can, again, if you wanted to, you could turn this into a, whoops, that whole class whiteboard. People could make notes and encourage more interaction, collaboration in that regard.
Yep.
Any
And
tips?
even
Oh,
while
go
you're
ahead.
on that page, Matt, I was just thinking, so right now you're in lesson pacing teacher, right? So each
Hmm.
time you add a page, you're taking everybody with you to the next page to see it not only in the class, but also remotely.
Yep.
And if you were to slide it to student pace, now the navigation button is on the bottom of everybody's left-hand side of their screen. And maybe they watch a video and go back to that brainstorming map and add more details. So you can kind of turn the content over to students, even if you're not driving it from the board as teacher pacing, which is
I think
really,
that really allows for changing things up on the fly and a better flow overall, just depending what the situation is like, doesn't it?
oh yeah, for sure. And you can just kind of tap it once and make that happen and then bring it back to get everybody together.
All right. Next up, I think we're going to talk about manipulatives. You had a great suggestion for this one. We're going to talk about making words. Typically, how would you use this one in the classroom, Jennifer?
I would build vocabulary. We'd use like my travel destinations, right? So I would bring up this manipulatives and I'd have everybody start to interact with the letters to create words about our concept. You might have to convert the page, but currently, if everybody was in the classroom, right, they could come up to the board and we could use all those things. But if we're pushing it to our student devices, we want to make sure we convert it to a whole class whiteboard. There you go. But not
Mm,
only can students use things on their device from the board, right, as this lesson you're making on the fly, but while you're in the classroom, you could have students coming to the board and using this as a center or like a station rotation where we're going to do some vocabulary development up on the board because all those letter tiles are all infinitely cloned objects. So it looks like an acrostic poem, looks like students are developing all kinds of things. And I love how they're using it and making like kind of like a crossword puzzle and
yeah, I'm
having
seeing that.
everything kind of come together. Love it.
I love the instant interactivity. It's just you hit that button, everybody's in there, collaborating,
Yep.
working together. It's fantastic.
Yep. And I know all you teachers are thinking of all of the different ways that all of these components can be layered into what you're currently teaching right from your smartboard.
Folks are having fun here. I'm seeing some interesting words. We got
Yeah, I love it. And for that
romance.
next level, right? So if you grab your pen and you add like a dot for a period or you add a question mark for some additional punctuation with your pen, you can highlight that as the teacher and turn that into a infinitely cloned object. And then not only can they make words, but you could also have students start to make sentences
Oh,
and use other components beyond just the tiles. So it's neat to be able to take what's already been created and tweak it and customize it to meet your students' needs.
yeah, there we go. My poor excuse for a question mark.
That's right. I always like to do it and then have it show like where it turns into a like the inking turns to text, right? That annotation stuff. So
Ah, yeah,
that's
there you
always
go.
a
There's
cool
a little tip
option.
for you. A little tip for
Yep.
you. All sorts of different ways to use it. Okay, let's take a look at some widgets. Oh, so we're back to my first screen here. I didn't create a new board. So that's the thing. Yeah, if you are stepping through your different pages there, it will eventually just loop back to that first one here. So let's start a new whiteboard because I want to explore this idea of widgets and the different things that we have here. So when I open up this tab to the left, you can see I've got a bunch of fun stuff in there. I've got a spinner, for example. We can assign different colors. We can use this to choose things. We've got some different math tools in here, like the protractor, for example. But we're not going to get into any math stuff today because I'd be a horrible math teacher. No, what I want to show you guys here, I'm just going to move this out of the way here. Oh,
And
spin it again.
while you're doing those things and removing or moving them around, just a reminder to those of you that have joined that you may not see the widget on your device, but you will be able to see it from the Zoom screen, obviously, on the board. But if you are in the classroom, you could interact and work with that widget from the board, but not yet inside of the class code that you've joined with. So just you might get a little exclamation point for now.
So what I find interesting about the widgets here, especially this dice, is it's customizable. I don't just have to go with a set of numbers. I can actually choose text. And this could be an interesting way to allow the students to go for a story prompt, for example. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to change some of these things here. So we'll do this one could be a car, this one could be a plane, this could be a
Oh,
train.
sounds like some travel
How about
opportunities are coming.
walking? And we'll say we'll go boat.
Ooh, I
And
like
for the
it.
last one, we'll go choice. I like that a lot. Okay, and whoop, nope, wrong button there. And now when we go back, I can choose to spin that dice and do that for each individual student. And the face that comes up could be a story prompt, for example.
Oh,
Tell me about how you would get to the island of Bora Bora in a car. And you can't. Or
that
maybe
would
you
be a
can.
fun story.
Yeah. Or, hit it one more time and perhaps they're going to take a, wait for it, walk. Oh, that's a long
Ooh.
walk to Bora Bora. So there you go. And at this point, of course, we've built several slides, and like you were talking about earlier, Jennifer, I could turn this on to student pacing, and then they can go step through. They can watch that video on the Eiffel Tower. They can get to that point where they roll that dice, and they're going to decide what kind of story they could write. So,
All kinds. So students can come up to the board even and write their story around the board. And if you took your two fingers, right, and zoomed in or zoomed out, not only do you have that one space that you're working on with that dice, but you also have that huge grid at the bottom.
yep.
That those of you maybe new to your board are like, where is this coming from? But look at all this magical space that you have the ability to interact with.
Yeah,
Lots and lots of
so
options.
much. Like almost infinite canvas. Very neat. Very,
Exactly.
very neat. Okay. At this point, I think we'll go back to the slide here.
Right. I bet we're turning it over to them,
I
right?
think we are. I think that's what's about to happen,
We
isn't
have
it?
a challenge for you. I
I love a good challenge.
know,
Good
me
social
too.
media challenge. If
Right.
you're,
Oh, good point.
yep,
Yeah. So when that it's on its way. I know we've done a
yep,
lot of things and we're in Zoom. So
yes,
it's catching up for sure. But
busy
we
board
do
here.
have a challenge for you guys.
Bring that back and reload that one more time.
And while that's coming up, we
There we
want
go.
you to find maybe it's something in your browser. We'll add even a little bit more detail. Maybe it's something in your browser. You want to grab some content and turn it into a whiteboard space, or from your home screen, right, in your favorites. I know you guys saw that where your whiteboard app is part of your favorites. Grab that, tap that whiteboard app, grab a fun background. There's a cool graffiti board. There's obviously the white spaces, but all those geometric fun backgrounds. Grab your inking pens or your finger ink. Decide what you want. Add it. Be creative, right? Add some content. Maybe it's those ready-made graphic organizers or manipulatives. Add some pictures or some icons or images, depending upon what your learning objectives are. maybe even a video, right? Maybe it's one of those ad-free YouTube videos. And once you've put it all together, we would love for you to snap a photo of it or grab a screen grab rather, and put it on one of our social media platforms, whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter. And you have the opportunity to be randomly selected possibly to earn a prize. And so if you'll add the hashtag we are smart or hashtag edurefresh, give us a little shout out about our session today. And we'd love to see what you can create from what you've seen today with us.
I believe there
Awesome.
was
What do
that
we have next?
hashtag Lumio Spark as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, yep. So for those
Yeah,
Lumio sessions that you might be attending, we definitely want those to be all connected with our Lumio social channels.
and you can see there at the bottom, there we've got some
Yeah, so
hashtags to
on that
use.
resource page. Yep, perfect. That's awesome. So we have a lot of great resources for you as well. They're going to be in the chat. Anshu and Asha I've been watching those questions. There are some great things that are happening in the chat as well, but definitely some additional resources for after our session, some IQ resources that you'll find right there in that reference guide bubble. More webinars. We have all of our brand new series starting the first week of August with those getting started, those launch into learning webinars. So I saw a couple times in the chat there were some questions about like I haven't had official training yet. What do I do? And we're going to have some additional webinars for those of you that are also brand new to your board or brand new to any of the smart solutions, the notebook or the Lumio platform. So lots of other resources in the training instructional resources bubble there. And I know at 12 o'clock today, we had I think it's 12 o'clock today, or maybe it's 12 o'clock tomorrow. I know that there's also a way to learn more about the Smart Ambassador program and also our Smart Certified or our Lumio Certified Trainer stuff. So lots of great resources on this page, and that bit.ly will be in the chat. It's probably been in there a couple times already by now for you to have access and bookmark that and save it. What else do we have, Matt? Oh, more about the ambassadors.
Absolutely.
Lots of great resources. So these resources are also all included on that resource page. And there's a bit.ly on the top that's just Smart Ambassadors. We'd love to grow our ambassador program so that, and you don't have to be an expert, which is, I love. It's just if you love the things that you're doing with Smart and you want to help others be successful, definitely want to be part of that community.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's not so much technical skill. It's all about that passion, passion for learning,
Yeah.
passion for wanting to help others learn and whatnot.
Yeah.
All right.
See, and
And
here the
finally,
moment many of you might have been waiting for is that certificate, right? So we would love to hear your thoughts, how the session went. Quick little 5-question feedback survey. At the end of the survey, you'll get a link to a PD certificate that you can download and you can actually customize with your name and date. So that'll be also in the chat for you. Are there any other questions maybe that we from Ashu and Anshu in the chat that we could help go through while everybody's grabbing all these different links and different resources?
I'm just showing myself being two people writing at the same time.
Yeah,
We had
I
that
love
question
that.
come up, so yeah, you can absolutely have two people at the same time. These things work with multi-touch for sure. So
Yep. Even more, right? Because now you've activated finger inking. You could
yep,
have
yeah, for
a
sure.
few people up there.
Yeah, you betcha. And you got your finger. Oh, turn that on there. Put that green. So yeah, I've got pen in one hand, finger in the other. And if I had another hand, so
And will the sessions be recorded? Yep, every session from the event today and tomorrow will be recorded and available in a follow-up email and all the resources and the additional information so that it's not just this session, but you can continue to watch and rewatch and relearn the pieces that you want to go back and see again.
So Maria, for your question there, yes, when you want students to join to the session, you simply go to hellosmart.com and enter in their classroom code, and that will allow them to log directly into the session. Can two or more teachers with the same smartboard or use the same smartboard with their own login info? Yeah, absolutely. That's the beauty of signing in. Once you have your credentials, you can take and go and log into any smartboard in your school, and you're going to have your files there with you. They follow you along. It's the beauty of it. So,
Yeah, because we know teachers sometimes have to travel from room to
yep.
room. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions. I am so excited we were able to spend this time with you. And we hope to see you on social and in some future sessions. All right. Guys, have a
Okay.
great rest of your day.